There we go. Okay. We are recording and okay, I just enabled screen sharing. Kate, and see if that works. Anand, thank you. That was it.
Not for me. I think what?
You should have a screen share button.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're set.
Give me a screen, Ketan.
Yeah, cool. So this is the Flytesnacks repo. I'm just going to give a very quick tour. The existing set of examples that we had already exist, and that's so when you land on the homepage of the repo, there's a README that shows you a few options. One of them is a simple example using FlightKit. Today we only have FlightKit examples in here, FlightKit Python, I mean. And also, if you do want, we would love to add Java examples also in this way. That way, it's a very common language of expressing ideas and getting people up to speed with new SDKs. But so this is the existing examples. I guess everybody's seen them. But what we've added is a cookbook. It's kind of a fun one, like snacks, I guess. We know how to cook the snacks. One of them here is like how to write a task, and the way we've done it is you have a README that takes the actual file, which is co-located with the same place, and you can see the example. Then we go back to the recipes. I guess I need to put a back button in there. You can go through various different aspects. Like an interesting one is the interaction example. In the interaction example, what we've done is instead of just showing the Python code, we're also showing an example of how we use Jupyter Notebook. And this is actually a running Jupyter Notebook. It shows you how to actually interact with existing workflows in production or development and execute them, or register, relaunch failed execution. And there's a very interesting example in this one, which it also gives you in the same place how to use Flight CLI. And once I think Austin and Yuvraj are working on Flight CTL, once they get moving further ahead, they can add examples for Flight CTL in this one. And once you have that, one of the interesting examples is this is a very typical case that some users have asked us about. And one of them is like, let's say I have a folder execution in production. How do I relaunch a backfill execution or create a partial workflow for that execution? And this is an example of doing just that. Moreover, if I go back here, there's examples of using raw containers, dynamic workflows, and tasks. And this is by no means complete, but we are trying to complete this as much as we want, as much as we can. If there's something that is specifically want, definitely ping us in the channel, clear an issue, and I think this should be a high priority task for us. We will do it, and we will definitely try to complete it. On the other hand, if you are ever wanting to understand what are the different plugins and how to use them, they are actually listed separately. So in this case, if you want to write a Spark job, there's an example of how to write a Spark job. And here's an example of writing a Spark job PySpark or Scala jobs, Spark jobs. And this is again only like Git examples, but you can expand them further later on. This also tells you how to install Spark for your container. Same thing for PyTorch training. I guess once Kevin's done, he'll be adding TensorFlow training, and we have Presto queries, Hive queries, SageMaker. All of these examples are coming in, and I think this is more of an interactive documentation. So that means you can actually clone this repo and make all of these examples, you might find some hiccups, and you're still cleaning them up. But if you do find something, issue, bug, raise an alert with the channel. Either one is fine. We'd love to know that. So that's Flytesnacks. I think I should put a link to it in the main Flyte page. I'll do that probably today or tomorrow. On the other hand, is a quick demo about catalog. So I think a lot of people know that Flyte comes with data catalog built in. That serves two purposes. It's used in memorization and second in linkage tracking. The problem today is that our UI doesn't really show any information whether the cache was populated, whether there was a cache hit or a cache miss, and any links into the catalog. And that was a to-do item. So that's what I completed. But the UI still is probably one step behind. It will be adding that data soon. But I will show you a more Ghetto demo. It will use an API to show all the information that's available. But let me show you an example. In this case, all right. In this case, this was a run workflow. If you can see, let's go back. So usually it takes about 5 minutes. It ran in 33 seconds or 7 seconds sometimes. Depends on the load of the system, and this is running on my local laptop. So something happens where I'm running 4 workflows and it takes longer. But it ran very quickly, but we don't know why. It's not just them. It has inputs, it has outputs, and if you look at the task, it shows you that the task is discoverable, which is caching is equal to true. This is a legacy name for caching, and the version for discovery exists. But we don't know whether it was a cache hit or a cache miss, and so on. Same thing in this case is a sub workflow. So this is the task inside the sub workflow. The same inputs, outputs. It is discoverable, and you can see the discovery version. But yeah, there's no information about whether it was a cache hit or not. So let's relaunch this again, just for kicks. And let's change the size. And I know I have never run this again. So it's gonna rerun all of this on the local computer. So let's just run it. While it's running, meanwhile, let's go back to that cached version. So the ID is, and that's the execution ID. What I have is actually I had already put it up. What I have is a Flyte admin API, and I am actually putting for that execution ID all the node executions. And in this case, there was a node called scaled. Let's go back to the console and we'll see that. So there's a node called scaled and there's a node called rotated. In the rotated, there's a rotate task. So there's a node called scaled. If you look at the cache status for it, it says cache hit. And if you look at the catalog key, it also provides something called this catalog key, which is essentially how to look up that item in the catalog. So for example, source type, project domain, and the name of the thing and the version. It also provides you the alternate identifiers to look up the item in the catalog. In this case, it's the artifact ID, and there is a tag called as a name. Along with this, it also provides if this was a cache hit within Flyte, which was the originating task that generated caching information. So it was generated from a task called Flytesnacks under which this version, and it was the execution ID was some X, Y, and Z. In this case, I don't have unknown, and this is because this was an older example. That means I ran the caching information before, or the cache was populated before my change was pushed in. So right now we don't know the actual execution name that's causing the cache population. But after my change in, you will actually start seeing the actual name that's causing the cache population, and which is going to be, which is what I'm demoing. So that's the this is a subtask, sub workflow in rather. So for that, we have to see that it's a sub workflow, and the sub workflow is called XYZ. So we take that name and we open that up. Once you open that up, it has a rotate task. That's the rotate task. Again, that was the cache, same stuff, data set ID, artifact tag, node execution ID. So the eventual goal is in the UI on the right panel. Maybe there will be a small icon here that shows whether it was a cache hit or a miss. And then on the right hand side, we will show you the actual link to the execution, and you can click on it and dive deeper and get more information about it. Eventually, we have an internal thing called a Flyte Explorer, and I'm not showing any of the data, but I can show you how it's a very simple tool that somebody's written on top of catalog that shows you all the catalog entries and filter them by some of the things that they are interested in only. Like for example, yeah, I don't know exactly how to use the tool, but once you click on it, it shows you more details about all the artifacts that were generated and the Flyte execution ID that generated. So yeah, so then you can keep on, going back and forth from catalog to Flyte. So eventually, our goal is we are taking the Explorer that I just showed you and merging it into our UI. So then the users will be able to navigate from their workflow execution to the originating workflow execution to the actual data set, explore that data set, and come back into the execution. So that's the high level view. But let's go back 1 minute and see what happened to the execution. Oh, this one failed. Boom killed, of course. I'm running Zoom and I'm running everything. My laptop doesn't have enough memory. So sad. But this one worked. Yeah, actually, we can still get information about this. That's good. That's fine. Yeah, I need to get a newer laptop. My laptop's 4 years old. So, yeah, in this case, let's see. So it says cache populated, not a cache hit, because we actually generated data and that got populated into cache. So, and then all the information that we need to track this information. But there is no origin source execution ID because this was the source. And next time when you run it, the source execution ID will be this execution. So that's a quick look at the changes that are coming in. They are all ready to go. It's in one, it's like across all the repos, there's one PR each. And my target to merge all of them is this week. If not this week, then early next week. And then when you deploy it, that should not cause any changes. There is a small migration that will happen in the database, essentially adds a new column called cache status in the database. And this is essentially for analytics, so that you can quickly run analytics of how many nodes got a cache hit versus cache miss or cache populated and so on. But that should not change anything. So those are the two things in my end. Kevin, do you have anything to share?
Yeah. Hey, Ketan, I can also, I want to talk a little bit of the node refactor that you have done as well.
Yep, let's do that.
So, okay, can I go ahead?
Yeah, you can.
Awesome.
I will write it in the notes.
Sure. Hey guys, for those of you who haven't met me, I'm Anand. I have been at Flyte forever, but this is my first meeting. More recently, I've been working on observability, mostly on the internal end to keep Flyte accountable for any issues, trying to track infrastructure issues and trying to account it. Since last week, what I have been working on is the ability to add parent-child relationship to a node execution. What I mean by that, let me share my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Yep. Awesome. So I am taking an example of batch tasks workflow, and this is all open source, so you can try it out. So here is a set of nodes, And if you expand a set of node, there is a list of more nodes and so on. But if you actually look at the actual graph view, this is the correct one where you only see a set of nodes. These nodes in turn produce a list of nodes. And there is another example that I want to show you, which is a sub workflow, which is here. There is just one node called as identity workflow execution. But what this node does is this node is a sub workflow node, and the sub workflow can have more nodes. But ideally, you want to have this node and other nodes inside the parent node, which means that any node, if it produces more nodes, this could be a dynamic task or a sub workflow. They have to be, there needs to be a parent-child relationship between node executions. So today in our system, we do not have it. But you might ask me, hey, if that is not happening, how is dynamic task alone working correctly? The reason is because what we have introduced is we have introduced a concept of a task being a parent to a list of node executions. What I mean by that is in terms of dynamic task, a node results in a task execution. The task execution creates a list of nodes, and we associate the list of nodes produced to the task and not to the parent node. So I am working in actually refactoring this relationship and making sure that node executions can map to a parent node execution. But ideally, that is slightly tricky because in our admin system today, we do not have a concept of parent-child at the node execution level. So that's what I'm refactoring it. But one of the main things that I wanted to share in this aspect was this change is in some regards a backward incompatible change. So we are trying to be very careful in the way we roll out. So what I mean by that is technically the way parent-child relationship is today is that all the node executions, parent is a task and the task is mapped to a node. We are completely going to remove this relationship of nodes saying that, hey, they are a children to a parent task. Instead, in the new world, it will be like all the node execution will say, hey, I am the children of a parent node. So as we move forward, the current code that we have is going to be removed. But how do we roll out? So currently what we are trying to introduce is we are trying to introduce an event version concept wherein we will support both parent task and parent node. But the moment you upgrade the event version, you will only see for any execution all parent-child relationship at a node level. But if you go in the past and look into the UI for your older workflow executions, your UI will still work, and mainly because they follow the old event version format. So the way we are trying to target is that we will support both for a significant amount of time, and once we do like a major version upgrade, we will remove the old code. But until then, we are planning to have both the code existing. It's just that the partition of whether an execution will be using a node parent-child relationship versus a task parent-child relationship will be at the execution level, and so on. I also shared a document in the Zoom invite chat channel. If you guys want to take a look, do take a look. But yeah, this is mainly what I have today. Yeah, any questions?
Did you say Windows is going out?
That's a good question. So I have made a change in the admin. The next thing, there are two more things that needs to happen. One is we're going to need to figure out a field which we want to use for event version so the propeller can use that field. And then the last is UI. So so I do not know the timeline for UI, but everything else should happen, in this week, maybe mostly by this week. I'll get Randy's, the person who's working on UI, and see when he can get to it, and I can share it in the channel.
Yeah, I think just also from my point of view, this is one of the biggest problems in our in our data model at the moment. Yeah, and you're still sharing the screen. So this is a biggest problem in our data model, and I think before we can release 1.0, we wanted to have enough time for this to bake in. We don't think this is a destabilizing change in terms of the overall system, but it's just incompatible with the decision that we've made in the past, and we're fixing in a way that it should have minimal impact, but there is some impact. Then you will see some difference in the UI. But other than that, I think this is going to help us, evolve even further. I hope everybody's okay with that change. Of course, before we roll this out into production and into the open source, we will be testing it thoroughly within our system. So we are slating it to be part of 0.7, which is end of August.
I have a question. You mentioned this a problem in the data model. Is the data model of the admin, or it's something deeper in the?
No, data model of the admin.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
In fact,
Yeah.
I can share the screen also.
Yeah. Actually, you can just show the problem where the difference.
Yeah.
That you make.
You can still see my screen, right?
Yeah.
So so here is what's happening. So this is a node execution. Every an entry of a node execution. So whenever Propeller sends a node execution, we store it in the node execution table in the admin, and each entry points to a single node execution. So what happens today is we have introduced this concept of a parent task execution. This is the older concept. We have this field parent task execution ID. This field essentially points to the ID in the task execution table. So what happens is that a node execution will have a task execution, and the task execution will have an ID. Now we have a list of nodes. These nodes are essentially saying that, hey, my parent is that task execution in the task execution table. We want to deprecate this field and in turn have a recursive a situation where each node execution in turn will have a list of child node execution, and vice versa, which means that each node execution which has a parent will in turn have a parent node execution ID or a parent ID, which is what I'm naming it, instead of having a parent task execution ID.
Yeah.
So this is the change in the data model that will be happening. But what I'm trying to say is that right now we are not going to remove this field. So in the near term, you will have both the columns, and at some point you will have to get rid of it so that you can run. You can just deploy the new Flyte version, and it will still work in the older model unless you upgrade the event version, which is what I want to come up with. So it's saying that, hey, admin will now support both the versions. It's just that we slowly migrate and make sure that this field is completely unused, at which time we can go and delete it.
Yeah, I think we are probably at some point we're going to have a time when there are these deprecated fields, and we'll do that cleanup, and maybe we'll slot that for 1.0 release. So until then, we'll support both. And I think they'll be supported at an epoch value. So anything older, if we're using older Propeller, which is sending the events with the right information in it, then which is not sending the information in it, then you will continue to use the old model. Otherwise, you will start using the new model. And hopefully, the feedback is not much.
Actually, I just realized one thing. This label, if you can see my highlighting, is actually named incorrectly. This is not what I'm referring to. I'm going to introduce a new field called as parent ID, but this is a different feature. Just that the label parent node execution ID is now confusing. So I'll send you guys a PR. I'm almost done it. That will clarify more. Yeah, but yeah, don't get confused with this field. This is something completely different from whatever we talked in this meeting. It's just that the name is yeah, confusing. Sorry.
Nelson, any questions?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also for people who are new, right, there are three entities within an execution of a flight graph. The first top level entity is a workflow execution. Second entity is a workflow consists of nodes, which are only meta entities. They essentially exist to capture retries and meta information about a task execution. But we can have execution like nodes of different types. Node can have tasks in them, or could be branches, could be sub workflows, could be dynamic, and so that's what the node level captures. And then there is a third entity which is only for task execution. And a task is the thing that actually doing the work. For example, a container executed on Kubernetes somewhere, or a job executed in BigQuery. Both of those are tasks, and they are modeled as task executions. So this changes at the node level, the central, the meta layer that we are wanting to, and the natural hierarchy is execution contains node executions, each node execution contains task executions, and so on. What we had was one of the node executions was linked to a parent task execution. And so we had a circular relationship, which we are severing going forward. Okay. All right. I think I had one more demo, but I see Jeev has joined. Hey, Jeev, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Hey, yeah, thanks for joining, man. And so Nelson here is from Spotify. They are the other people who use it on GCP, to our knowledge. I know there are two other teams that are using it on GCP. I actually don't know which companies they are. They just ask questions and I answer, and then they go away. But I know these two of you who officially use on GCP. So cool. Yeah, so Jeev, also we do this bi-weekly sync, so definitely join and bring up concerns that you have. Okay, one more demo I had was all the UI stuff that Randy has been doing. He's been doing a lot of work in the UI stuff, so I just wanted to make sure that there is a place that we talk about it. So this is not done yet, but this is the prototype of the UI update that's happening. And if anybody's interested, we can share the mock with you guys. I actually am not very good at navigating Figma. How do you zoom in?
Yeah, I had the same question. I had one of those.
Yeah, yes.
Recently, it's like, how I use this?
Yeah, why? I don't know why it's so complicated, but yeah, okay. Maybe it's supposed to be easy. So today we show all the workflow execution as a simple node list. What it's moving to is this waterfall pattern. It's not a waterfall, it's a timing diagram, essentially. And the colors, the different saturation at time, the different colors indicate different states. So for example, a node might have been queued for X amount of time, and then it actually ran, and something got queued. And it's essentially the high level point of this is to provide a quick visualization of what's taking time in the system, or where did I spend most time within my workflow. How much, eventually also to show how much CPU and memory this part is using. So kind of giving you a hint of the cost. And at Lyft, this has been a very, very high ask from our users. From open source, I guess we've not received any of these asks, but at Lyft, people are using this on a day-to-day basis, and they find this sort of stuff very useful. So these mocks essentially show what direction the UI is going in to make it. It's more not mostly. It's still an engineer-focused UI, but it's made so that we can quickly catch problems. Either they can be performance or cost problems within the system. And this will also form the basis of doing a lot of future work. And that's why I think Randy is probably going to work on this quarter for the first couple months in this UI. And let me know if anybody is interested in taking a deeper look. I will figure out how to share from Figma. And then let me share with you guys. The other thing that he's been doing is, but for some reason we didn't have this tool basically. So if you do this one, I actually showed this as a demo. Right? So if you're launching a blog, you can actually specify the URI and everything in line in the UI. That didn't exist till some time ago. This is also going to change. This is the same sort of stuff that happens in schema for blogs, for multi-part blogs, instead of a single file, like a multi-part directory. And then the URI will be just a path to directory. And you can specify a list of URIs as well. You can specify a list of directories as well, and so on. And this is very useful to make sure that you can launch with TypeScript in a TypeScript way in the system. Okay, that's I think from Randy. Also, he's done a lot of bug fixes, and I think the UI is way more stable now. So if you do find anything, please let us know. We have one UI engineer. He's I think the entire community almost relies on one UI engineer. So please. Is a precious resource. So let us know if you find any problems. Try to get him to work. And I think if you know any UI engineers in your team or companies who would love to help us, that would be really appreciated and useful. We have a lot of work to be done in the UI. The UI is really behind. So I just wanted to share that information with the UI, that what's happening in the UI. All right. Any questions, comments, suggestions? And I think I'll hand over to George.
Thank you, everybody. Randy is he's awesome, but there's only one of him, and we definitely are looking for a second or third UI engineer with a strong TypeScript background. If you guys use your networks and let us know, because we would love to have some help on that side, especially because we have a bunch of people piling up work behind him, and he's the only person who exposes it to the screen. So that's it. Anyone else, or should we wrap this up today? All right, we'll call it. Thanks everybody for joining. We will see you in a couple of weeks. I'll post the video shortly. And anybody that wants to demo next week, just DM me on Slack and we'll add you to the list.
Yeah, there is a sign up sheet also. You can just go and sign up. Yep. And Kevin, I hope you can demo something for TensorFlow. I'm putting some pressure on you. All right.
All right. Yeah. Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.